gamers unite, along with Aaron and Frosty. We're taking flight, tune in, level up, turn the quest. In the world of action, we're the best. Welcome to the Town Portal Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the official Town Portal Podcast. My name is Aaron, owner and operator of the YouTube channel Action RPG. And with me today is CEO, Top Dog, Creative Director, Thomas Mahler for No Rest for the Wicked. I'm sorry to say, for the first time, I feel very sad about this. We didn't even know if we were going to do the podcast. Frosty LaRue is unfortunately not available, so you guys have to listen to me and try and fill in for Frosty. Thomas, how are you doing today? Thank you for joining me for this chat.
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me again, Aaron. This is becoming tradition by now.
I know. I like this tradition. And guys, the first thing I noticed when Thomas jumped on camera is that his background is different. And he pointed out to me that they finally got him a nice background. And what you're actually looking at is rocks.
Yeah, it's actually from a volcano. It looks pretty nice. It's not a fake thing. It's actual stone.
You have stone volcano backdrop behind you. That's correct?
Yes.
Okay. Isn't that a sign of like you've
right.
officially made it or something like that? That is pretty cool. So today we've got an awesome show prepared. We're going to be talking for 90 minutes, 2 hours. The idea for today's podcast is we're going to be talking about the future for No Rest for the Wicked. And Thomas is very good about, saying what's coming, but obviously can't give away the farm. But we should have a great show for you. So Thomas, first question, maybe a little bit of a victory lap. Wicked together. What's the sentiment right now with Moon Studios? How's everybody feeling? Are people doing sprints around the studio? I just want to know, what's the feeling right now?
I mean, we are just all super relieved, right? Because whenever you bring something out and work on something, it can go two ways, right? Like it can either, you put it out and there's, it's so delicate with video games, right? Where it's just, there can be a couple of things wrong and boom, everybody hates it and you get a lot of shit and negative reviews and so on, right? And I was already kind of mentally preparing myself because this was the multiplayer update, right? And historically, doing a multiplayer, especially networked, especially rollback netcode and so on, is incredibly difficult, right? So I was already kind of prepared for shit, something is going to go wrong, right? Yeah. But then we ran the beta and it actually was fine, right? There were some kind of hiccups and stuff that we found during the beta. And then we tightened things on our end, set up some more servers and so on, right? And then actually the launch couldn't have gone any better, right? And our sales shot through the roof and all of that. It was super crazy. We had one day where we sold 74,000 copies just on that day.
That is incredible.
Ridiculous.
That is incredible.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So, I mean, in many ways, right, what we are trying to do is very much just do the same thing that Larian did with Baldur's Gate 3, right? We just basically want to look at that as a formula where you can say as a developer, hey guys, we have this really complex, unbelievably complex game in the making. We'll put it into early access. Everybody who's pretty hardcore can already play it, right? You can already get a whiff of it. At the same time, I mean, there's actually a video coming out tomorrow that I did with Thomas Brush, right, where I show a little bit of the stuff that we've already been working on over the years. And so at the same time, you're always holding things back, right? Because we're also very much aware of, well, we still have to build hype towards 1.0, right? Everybody expects 1.0 to not just be a small update, right? It needs to be a thing where once you guys play it, you're like, what the fuck? That's crazy, right? It's such a huge change, right? So, so we're just all super thrilled, right? And relieved that it actually worked, that people responded to it and so on. Because I was in a similar situation when we released the Breach update last year, right? Where we didn't get the balance quite right. And we got shit ton of negative feedback, right? So it was very nice this time that we actually really landed the plane and and everybody got super excited and our sales shot up and so on. We couldn't be happier. It's crazy, especially given where the industry is right now, right? Where you constantly see here about
layoffs
and so on. So it's very nice that, that players have kind of like been so gracious to kind of like just write us all this feedback, help us with stuff and so on, right? So yeah, we're over the moon.
So no
pun
rest for
intended.
the wicked. It took a little over a year to break 1 million copies sold. And then within 15 days of Wicked together, you guys sold an additional 500,000 copies. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So it's crazy. Like we are just every day I woke up and was like, I can't believe these numbers. That's ridiculous. We never sold that amount of copies and so on, right? Which gives me a good hope, right? That hey, we might just be able as we release to kind of like repeat that Baldur's Gate 3 success, right? Especially if all this stuff that we're currently working on lands in the game and it's properly polished and so on, right? I really like I'm already myself really looking forward to finally playing that version, right?
Yeah.
Like fully polished and with everything in and so on. It's not just for the gamers out there, right? It's also like, no, I really want to play this, right? I really want to get my hands on it and like have it at that level, because ultimately we are making the action RPG that we always wanted to play, right? We're making the kind of thing when we were younger and played Diablo 2 and so on, where we were thinking, man, this is where I really want to see things going, right? That's what we're making. So we're really super excited. And now kind of like we see that there's a little bit of confirmation that, yeah, there's lots of players out there who are in that same boat with us, right? Who also want to see that. So that's fantastic.
Well, I could tell you from just my experience, and I can only speak for myself on YouTube, on Twitch and socials. I have never experienced, at least myself, a game like this that blew up so fast. I mean, the amount of enthusiasm and support for the game, and really like people wanting more. Like, dude, I want more areas. I want more end game. I want more levels. I want classes. I keep hearing about all this stuff coming. When is it dropping? When can I get more? Like, you're left there, spoiler warning, at the end of the campaign, and people are like, I want to go into that next area, and you can just feel the excitement. It feels different. I mean, it really does feel different.
I hate to be the cock tease, right, or something, but like there is a lot of really cool stuff coming, right? And obviously, like we have to hold things back just to make sure that anticipation builds and so on, right? So yeah, I think we have to be in a state where you guys can expect a lot, and then we have to, exceed those expectations.
Okay, awesome. That is just congratulations on the success. You guys have definitely earned it.
Thank you.
Have a ton of questions.
Aaron, actually, could we start with something? Because I'm interested from that side, right?
Sure.
We got a lot of messages from players that played a lot of what I call the classic ARPGs, right? I don't try to be condescending or anything, right? I don't think we have better terminology, right? Like to me, what I consider a classic ARPG is one that is based on point and click, right? And for like the past 2 decades or so, right, every developer basically followed the same formula that Diablo laid out, right?
Yep.
You look at and there's nothing inherently wrong with that, right?
Yeah.
But you look at your Diablo, you look at your Path of Exile, you look at your Last Epoch and so on, they're all very much built from that same foundation, right? And then I got a lot of response now from players who were like, oh my God, this is the first time I feel like this is new since Diablo 2, right? So maybe like, what was your journey like? Because you also came from that. You also didn't really dabble that much with like Monster Hunter or Souls or that kind of thing, right? So what was your journey like to really get into it?
So when it's funny, my experience was a lot like that Steam review that you posted. First hour, I hate this effing game. Next hour, this, it's getting a little better. That feels like my experience. When early access dropped, I was like, oh, I feel like Moon Studios lied to me. They told me that this is a competitor for PoE and Diablo, and it's not. It's an isometric Souls-like. It doesn't play like those games. I feel like I was not wronged, but I was misled in what the game was actually going to be when I first played it. So I played the early access. I played all the updates that came to it. I played Breach, but this time for multiplayer, Frosty loves this game. It's like his favorite game. Sorry, Diablo super fans. He loves Wicked. and his energy really got me into it. So for this one, I really took the time, and I spent the time to actually slow down, discover the areas, look for all the hidden secrets, understand the crafting and the housing and the fast
But do you
travel.
know, when did it click for you? When was that moment where you hit the tipping point of like, oh, I get it. Oh, now it's fun. I get it. Now it clicked.
It clicked when I understood itemization. For a while, it was hard because you would hit walls about how do I get more powerful? Like, this boss has killed me 100 times. Like, I'm so sick of this. But once you actually learn how to get through those moments, it's like this light bulb moment. I play a lot of, I've done 5 playthroughs for the game Titan Quest 2, and I really like Titan Quest 2. I actually like what Grimlore is making over there with the successor to Titan Quest 1. But I was playing it 2 days ago, and there was this ledge. It was literally like 1/16 of an inch, like this little teeny ledge, and it wouldn't let me go up it or down it. So I had to run all the way to the left to find a step to walk down that step to get to the next level. And I've played now almost 300 hours of Wicked, and like it just popped into my head, like, why can't I go down this little step as like my powerful warrior character? But
right,
I'm starting to connect those dots more and more when I'm playing other games compared to playing games like Wicked. So I get the question a lot, Aaron, do you have a leveling guide? Do you have an endgame build guide? Do you have a walkthrough guide? And I've been really trying hard to talk to the community that the way you play PoE, Diablo, Last Epoch, Torchlight, Standard, Live Service, Hack and Slash, it should be the opposite with Wicked. You should spend as much time in the campaign as humanly possible. You should explore the entire area. You should find all the secrets. Mm-hmm. You should learn itemization and what builds you like. You should figure out combat with dodge, block, parry, which I suck at parry. But, you know, find out what you like. And as you slowly move through the campaign, your knowledge will improve. To me, Wicked is like a lights off, volume up type of game, and it'll be one of the best playthroughs you've had. But I mean, of course, there's going to be times of frustration, but we're just so programmed to, I need to skip the campaign as fast as humanly possible to get to like the real game. And once you can kind of rewire yourself a little bit and understand that's not Wicked, it becomes one of the best games you've played.
That's exactly it, right? Like there is a moment, and it took quite some time. Like there's always this thing in marketing, right, where you have to re-educate the public, right? If you're making something new, right? Like it's very difficult. Like now in hindsight, it's like, well, I have a car to sell here. You know, it's a super fast thing to go from A to B, right? But when you competed with horses, where everybody had a horse and everything was set up for horses, right? It probably at the start was quite difficult to sell a car, right? Because now it's like, oh, Jesus Christ, now I have to get into this. Now I have to understand this, blah, 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 right? Now I have to learn how to use that thing, right? And all of that. And it's similar with Wicked. I think it took quite some time for people to not see Wicked as, oh, it's a Diablo-like, right? Because it isn't really, you know, it's its own thing very much, right?
It's a subgenre,
and I think that'll continue.
People always say, what's the closest it's to? I normally say V Rising, but it's really not like V Rising, but that's like the closest thing.
I don't think it's like V Rising, because we will still, even after 1.0, add a whole bunch of stuff and different things, right? So I really see it more as a platform and as a playground, right? As an RPG playground, right? Where yes, we have our campaign, and yes, it's a full-fledged thing, but we're trying to really kind of like use Wicked as a platform where we can throw crazy things in there, right? And just go completely bananas. And I mean, yeah, we just had yesterday a discussion on endgame, right? And what's traditionally been done with endgame in ARPGs and so on. And I think we'll have some really nice contributions there, I think.
Okay. For the people out there that are just excited for the future, what percentage of the game would you say is done? So, for example, would you say when 1.0 comes, the game will double in size? Right now, 50% is in. Like, how much more Wicked, just, you know, guesstimate, do you think is coming?
Well, I know exactly how much is coming, but it's difficult to kind of like nail down what does that mean, right? Because right now what we're seeing is actual playtime the amount of time people actually spend in the game to fully level their character, right, and do a full playthrough with everything that's in there is already between 40 to 60 hours, right? Right now, what I'm seeing in our balance master is that if you want to get to max level for 1.0, you will have to spend around 130 hours, right? So that's a lot. Like, so it's quite a lot there, but you also have to consider, well, there's a curve to leveling, right? In terms of the zones and stuff that we're adding, think like we're adding 4 zones. In the breach, we added 2, and it was already felt quite substantial to people, right? Here we're adding 4. So it's that kind of thing, right? Like if we basically doubled that. And obviously that's not where we're stopping, right? There's also more end game stuff and so on coming, right? So tons of like cinematics, the side quests. There's going to be factions in the game in Sacrament, right? So that, hey, if you want to join the Assassin's Guild, you can do that, right? And now you can play a murderer, right? Or you can join the church and then do those quests and that kind of thing. So it's not just what is the size of the world, right? And like, did we scale it up by another 50% or something, right? It's also just what's the playtime. The class system itself is going to add a tremendous, like if you want to master all the classes, you're going to spend, hundreds of hours easily, right? Like probably
which people will want to do. For the completionists, they'll want to do that.
I think the crazy people will want to do that, right? The other, like, I think everybody else will kind of like dip into classes a little bit and master the ones that they're really into, right? But obviously there will be some people who just want everything, right? And who just want to completely max out potential. Then also we have things like the comfort system coming, right? Where it's now not just going to be, oh, you level your character and your classes and, like all your rooms and all of that stuff, right? But it's also your house, right? That, hey, if you really want to play the highest level content, you will need to max out all this stuff, right? So it's just, in many ways, it's like that carrot on a stick, right? Like, and how many carrots are there? And are you really interested? Like, do these carrots look really fucking delicious, right? That's the idea.
So again, this isn't like a hold you to it, like exactly to the hour. Based on what you just said, if it took 40 hours to finish the game now, and with everything added for 1.0, it takes, 130 hours, you would say that the game is
easily over 100. Yes.
So the game is doubling, if not tripling in size by 1.0.
Again, in size, right? Like I don't know, like I'm not sitting there with a measuring tape, right? And in time for sure. Yes.
Okay. Again, I know you can't say a lot. The comfort system, when you're talking about upgrading your house, is that like, a level 3 bed? You need to have this much decorations, or is it truly like you need experience for your house? Can you give us like even a little bit of info on what exactly that is?
Let me break it down for you. So basically with the comfort system, by the way, the comfort system is coming pretty soon, even in patch 1, right? So you won't have to wait for 1.0 for that to drop. That'll be in patch 1 pretty soon. And what it does is it's a pretty clever system where it basically gives a level to your house, right? There are certain comfort grades. There are 6 different comfort grades. The house starts with bare, then it goes to basic, then it goes to cozy, then it goes to, I think, comfortable, right? There's these 6 grades. It goes all the way to opulent, right?
Okay.
And there's a really complex system behind it that basically rates your house based on conditions, right? Like which items have you brought in there? What's the quality of those items, right? How did you place those things together? And which categories have you placed, right? Like, so we don't want you to, for example, just buy 500 rugs and put it in kind of like cheese the housing.
And you have so many decorations, your house is leveled even though it looks horrible. Yeah, I gotcha.
Exactly, right? So we want people to really kind of like think of like what is like, I would even want to see people doing fucking housing build guides, right? Where it's like, hey, now you're playing interior decorator, right? And it's fun, right? With like, here's how you get these numbers up, and here's how you get a multiplier, right? And here's how you do this and that.
Housing build guides. Okay, now I have to do that.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. So that's what it does, right? Like, and people will have to, like, the other thing with the housing that you will see is right now we only have item tiers 1 to 3 in the live build, right?
Yeah.
For 1.0, that'll increase to 4 to 6 as well, right?
Okay.
So we go from 1 to 3 to 1 to 6. And that means it'll be difficult for people in the live build to kind of like get to opulent, right? I still have to tweak the numbers a little bit, but you might or might not even reach the final level because you will have to, do all of that with the first 3 tiers, right? But yeah, that is a full new system that is coming in, right? Simply because I want that carrot not just for the character, right? I also want that for other things. The same thing is true for factions, right? For example, with the class system, there's also going to be factions in the game, so that if you there's a certain faction, the Assassins faction, for example, is called the Severed Hand, right?
Okay.
And then with each faction, there's assigned various classes, right? And the idea is that they kind of teach you how to play that class, and then also just you get quests that kind of thematically fit, right? So if you want to if you play an assassin, right, then you literally have quests where they send you out to murder people, right? That kind of thing. So,
but is it are you kind of joining
also,
the good guys faction or the bad guys faction? Does your character actually have a good versus evil, something like that?
No, we want people to have full freedom there, right? So there is a little bit of a narrative dissonance, but I think it's better for people to kind of have full control. So it's very much like in Skyrim and Morrowind and so on, right, where you can join whatever, but you will have to progress through it. That's the idea. We don't want to lock you out of content, basically, is the idea, right? We want you to be able to do everything. But that stuff is going to be really cool, right? So right now, for example, one thing that you could absolutely ding us on is there's not that many side quests in the game, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, that is 100% correct. That sucks. And we will remedy that with 1.0, right? There will be a shit ton more side quests in the game. And the idea is that when you get to Sacrament, there should be just a crazy ton amount of stuff for you to do, right? So that if you do repeat playthroughs, right, or multiple people play, right, that none of them have kind of the same experience, right? You could always play through it in a different way.
Okay.
So that even if you play Wicked for the 20th time, right, now you're actually playing it through it with a different flow, right?
I would hope I want you to put something to bed right now. I have been telling people that there's no way it's intentional to have multiple freaking beds in your house and to get in the tier 1 bed, then get out into the tier 2 bed, then get into the tier 3 bed. There's no way they designed it that way.
Yeah, that's a bug, actually. So
I knew it.
The status effect, yes. So the way they will work is that there's going to be long-term buffs and short-term buffs, right? And then the long-term buffs, they will replace each other, right? So if you have a tier 1 rested buff and then you get the tier 2 rested buff, tier 2 will replace tier 1, right? That kind of thing. But there is a bug right now where we had it stack, which it shouldn't.
Okay. Any chance for house pets in the future? You take a nap, you say goodbye to your dog, and you got some pets running around the house.
Yeah, I'm getting so many this. There's when does it come to consoles? Then right underneath that is, oh, can you do couch co-op, right? And then right underneath it is, hey, can we get pets, right? So we'll have to see. First and foremost, right now I'm focused on let's get all the 1.0 content finished, right? And let's make sure that is extremely high quality, right? And that is a system that we know everybody wants, and we even have already. Hey, you can pet the dogs and the cats in Sacrament and so on, right? But we'll have to see if we have enough time to do that, because we also have to be economical to some degree, right? Where we want to finish 1.0. We don't want to work on this before we can do other cool stuff, right?
Of course. We were just
next 2 years or so.
I have a bunch of community questions that we came up with yesterday together, and one of the questions from the community was about, obviously the dogs and cats are running through the city and they give a buff. You have a house, it makes sense to have a house pet. So
makes sense, yes, but we'll have to see.
Okay, what is this rumor that with the extension of Sacrament, we are going to have an option to purchase a castle?
Yeah, it's not a rumor. I always wanted that, right? This is fully built out. I already saw the houses and so on. It's all fully set dressed and so on. So there is a fortress on top, like at the very top of Sacrament, like when you basically leave to Nameless Pass, right? If you go to the northwest side, there's actually the full fortress there. And the idea was always that's like the castle in Ultima Online, right? So this will be horrendously expensive. This will be for the 1% that plays Wicked like a crazy person, right? But then, if you play with multiple players and so on and build this out fully, right? It's a long-term goal, but then this solves all your housing needs that you'll ever have, right? And like to show off stuff really nicely and so on. It's just like every area there, every room there is like at least like twice as big as the houses that currently exist in Sacrament. So that's the idea, right? It's kind of like this prestige thing all the way at the top of Sacrament. And by the way, there's amazing vistas from there, right? So you can step out onto the balcony of your home, right? And then see all the way over to Marion Woods and so on, right? That kind of thing. It's a complete prestige thing, similar to owning a castle in Ultima Online was back then.
So you're probably talking like 100 gold, 50, 100, like a lot of grinding required to purchase this thing.
Yes, it's a long-term goal. You're not going to get it soon, but if you have it, you probably mastered the game.
Okay. The chat's asking a lot about class system. Guys, we're going to get to class system and talk about all that. I promise. I've got a whole list of questions here we're going to go through about the future. Comfort system coming patch 1. Housing update. Awesome. Thank you. Farming. You've mentioned in the past farming coming. Is that like you could literally just like grow all your own craftables, trees, everything? Like,
yes.
Is farming a 1.0 thing?
Yes. So we already worked on this. Like I recently shared a tweet where that was like 7 years ago, right? Like a video from like 7 years ago, from like 2019 or something, a year before Ori and the Will of the Wisps came out. And even then we had farming in the game and we always had it in there, right? But we never really fully finished it because it was always, oh God, we have to release this. We have to release this act, right? Like we have to get this done. We have to get the combat stuff done. We have to do this. So farming was always kind of like a little bit lower priority because we always knew, well, it's not going to break our necks if farming, like if we have to ship without farming, right? And so we have quite a lot of people that are very excited about this in the studio, right? That are just nutty about Harvest Moon and Stardew Valley, right? Or just love the idea of like playing with their spouses, right? That have spouses that are into Animal Crossing and that kind of thing. And just that dynamic of playing with your partner, right? That somebody could play the game almost like a cozy game. Meanwhile, you're out there murdering things, right? And then you come back home and you combine things, right? Like, oh, that person made a ton of gold through farming and so on. And now together, we upgrade and buy a better house and upgrade our house and do things together, right?
I guess my thought around farming is like, where would the farm actually go? I know you've talked about settlements in the past, where maybe like little towns outside of the city, but like, the way Sacrament...
you can even get there already in Sacrament. So if you run to the lowland meadows, right? You have to run through Sacrament. And there's some of the small farmhouses already on the way.
Yes.
But they have the smaller plots, right? But Sacrament was not designed, like right now, like you have like this small of a Sacrament, right? But it was always designed to be more like this size, right? So we kind of like just cut off certain points, right? Where we put like little walls there and stuff to kind of like block off things that we didn't want you to see yet. And so we are expanding Sacrament. So there's going to be like right on top of Sacrament of the graveyard, right? There's a full farmhouse hanging over it. You just can't get to it yet, right?
I see. Okay.
And it's all those things. So there's farmhouses kind of like on the outskirts of Sacrament, and they're quite huge, right? So it's also something that you have to save up for, but then you get a house plus a huge plot of land, and then it's literally, well, go play Stardew Valley, right? Like you literally have to have a hoe where you work on your crop, right? And then you have to sprinkle seeds into the ground, and then you have to water everything, and then you have to do the thing where it's like, well, at some point you're replacing your watering can with better watering cans, and then with sprinklers and that kind of thing.
So it is like a full-on system. It's not just you go there, click, and come back an hour later. Like you guys have designed a full system around farming.
Yeah. We want that thing to basically compete with things like Harvest Moon and Stardew Valley and so on, right? Where you literally can go there and play the game that way if you want to.
Wow. Okay.
That's the idea. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for answering these questions in such detail. This is awesome. You mentioned to me in the past that you really want to get a compendium into the game. Third-party tools are great, but they should never be required. Something that talks about, what enhancement can I get on a helmet, roll ranges, enemies, maybe what resistances that, they have or, they're bad against, things of that nature. Is the compendium coming soon? I could have sworn last time you were on the podcast, you said this was close to making it in.
You have the compendium in the game already, right? Like if you press start, you can see it. We just had to cut it down to just the small things, right? Like where you can rewatch the cinematics and see the tutorials, right? There's also going to be guides and the whole bestiary and everything in there, right? So it exists. It's like the framework exists, the UI for it already exists. We just have to, take the time to expand it, because there's always the UI stuff like that is just such a pain in the ass, right? Because you have to set it up. Everything needs a little bit of its own UI, and then you need to localize everything, right? Like it has to be translated into 9 different languages or whatever. So it's always a huge pain in the dick, right? But yeah, all of that is coming, right? Like we want people to not have to go to, I have to go away from the thing that I'm playing and open up my little phone, right? And now I'm looking at that instead of the screen. So yeah, we just want you to have that information in the game, right?
Okay, awesome. So it's in the game, just needs to be expanded so that all the information you want to know is in there and available to you without a second monitor. Okay, you talked about 4 more areas coming to 1.0. Are these extensions of existing areas, kind of like the final act of the game, or are these 4 new biomes?
I'm not going to answer that question. I want people to not be spoiled in any way, right? And if I would say something, people could speculate and kind of figure things out and figure out some story stuff and so on, right? So you will have to wait and see. It's going to be 4 new zones. How they're actually integrated into Isola Sakura and how we make all of that work and so on, I want people to wait and see. I can tell you, though, that in terms of story and the stuff that I'm seeing every day, right, it's going to be some of the best content that we've ever shipped. I'm supremely confident that you guys will be blown away, right? Because the shitty thing with making a fantasy saga, right, is that, and the same was true, by the way, with Lord of the Rings, right? If you look at Fellowship of the Ring, you're not getting into the juicy bits anytime soon, right? If you look at Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring at the start is all about who are the hobbits, how do they actually, what is their whole environment, how does all of that work, right? Let's introduce the premise. Oh my god, here's the ring. Oh, Gandalf comes to town, right? Something happens, and so on. You have to go through all the introduction. You have to introduce the characters and everything, right? So that people first get a feel of that, right? And then once you actually, we made you connect with these characters, right? Then it becomes interesting. Then it becomes really choosing, because once you have some emotional connection to these characters, right? Now I can basically be the chess master and say, hey, player, how do you feel if I just take that away from you, right? And so on. These kind of things, where we can do really, really interesting things in terms of story by once the whole premise is introduced, right? So that's why, the stuff that we have right now in there is really good, but the payoff is coming in the stuff that we're shipping now, right? Because there's going to be some scenes in there that will make people cry, that from a cinematic review point of view are just some of the best stuff we have ever done at Moon.
But just like existing areas, you will have a boss, kind of like a boss of that area. And will there be a pinnacle fight, like the final chapter bad guy? Okay, I'll take. You don't have to say anything.
I know what you want.
I got your nodding head, and you know what we want. Perfect. Okay, man, the chat people are so excited for the future. Can you confirm that at some point in the future of Wicked, we will go to an area covered in snow? Some kind of yes.
Yeah, here is the snowy area, right? So there's the frozen peaks that are adjacent to an area that we will ship with 1.0. And then like Tyr is literally a snowy mountain town, right? Like that.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's coming.
Okay, sweet.
We have pretty cool tech there as well, right? Like we had this, we even showed this on a Digital Foundry video where we have this snow that as you walk into it, it transforms and so on, right? So it really feels really cool to go through a snowy mesh.
I just feel like you guys are going to kill it in the snow area. Not that you're not killing it in other areas, but it's going to be like, I just think of the visuals in Wicked currently and what a snow area would look like. It just, yeah, that's going to be pretty cool.
It looks, even in the blockout, actually Till was an artist that I worked with on at Blizzard, and then at some point he wanted to leave Blizzard, right? And I kind of like brought him over to Moon Studios.
Yep.
And he like, I love some of the stuff that he does because he has such a good eye for world building and so on, right? So Tyr was one of the first places that he helped build, right? And it's this snowy town, and then elevator is going all the way through, and it's kind of like structured in a way where the rich people live at the very top of Tyr, right? And then you have the common folk in the center, and then you have the poor people all the way at the top and so on, right? But because there's this gigantic, ginormous elevator running through the entire place, right? You get these super nice vistas, right? Of just running up this whole thing, and like, oh my God, you see from the top all the way down and so on, right? And that's something that I really appreciate, by the way, about Wicked, right? This whole, the sense of verticality that you're getting, right? And the sense of being really high up, right? And then you could actually still jump down, right? Like that whole freedom is really special.
Before this podcast, an hour ago, I finished the campaign for the third time because my community's been telling me what I have to play. And we tried to jump off into like the Bat City to see if maybe we could extend
into Kalen. Yeah,
it didn't work. It didn't work.
Yeah, no. Nah. So,
okay.
I mean, but
could you at least confirm that that's where we're going next, where the cliffhanger leaves off?
Kalen will be in 1.0, yes. You will be able to explore that entire thing.
Awesome. Okay. Sweet. Yeah. You guys have teased about the, and I could be wrong on this, the ability to enchant tools and gear, like higher levels of tools. You've shown off, I think, like a little UI picture. Is there anything that you could expand upon what that'll look like exactly?
Yeah, I mean, I always wanted to do that, right? We just didn't get to it, and now I was finally able to bring it in, and our folks are working on it now in systems. So I already brought in the little stamina wheel, right? For like, oh, you have to hit on the red zone to get a perfect, right? But I always wanted to kind of like get the same feeling from tools that you get from gear, right? So that you can actually be proud of that. Oh, I have a plagued silver axe that, you know, on perfect gets me even more resources or something, right? Or like, oh my God, this like has a smaller zone, but if I hit it, it gives me triple the resources and so on, right? That kind of thing. It just makes super logical sense that you would, that you would extend the same exact system to tools as well, right? Or that you have all unique tools and so on, right? That kind of thing that actually play differently. So yeah, that's what we're currently also sitting on.
I cannot tell you how many questions I get about fishing. Do you get a lot of questions about fishing? I'm curious, like as far as fishing pole breaking
I don't know
faster.
What that weird sensation is, right? Like that fishing is generally like such a special thing for people, right? Like I saw a lot of people playing, and like once they saw, oh, they have fishing in the game, it's like it elevates the game to a whole different level for them just because
not only do people love fishing, but I'm sure you know this, like your main source of embers is normally from fishing. You can get them from digging and chests, but for the most part, fishing is where you get a lot of your embers. So that's why people fish. But I don't know why we're talking about this already, but we're talking about gathering tools. A lot of people have been requesting that the little circle is where the fishing line ends, not where the rod is. And people have been asking, like, a lot of times when you cast your fishing pole, your line's like on the other bank. It's not actually where the fish are jumping. I don't know if you guys have looked at that.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's strange right now, right? It should be where you actually throwing it and so on. So we will make that adjustment.
Okay, awesome. Some people love it, some people hate it. You've talked about PvP coming to the game, and I get asked this question a lot. I never know how to answer it, if it's like Diablo 2 PvP where you go hostile and you just fight outside of town, or if PvP is an actual full-fledged system. You talked about farming being a system, so I'm guessing that you must have some plans for PvP.
Yeah. I can tell you how we approach it. So there's gonna be a test that we're gonna throw out there already for the next patch.
Okay.
And that is duel mode. So if you play with Frosty, it's actually really cool. So if you interact with someone, right, you can already inspect that person's gear, you can trade, and so on, right? And so one of the icons in there, one of the things in there will be duel. So once you hit duel, your character actually grabs into his bag and kind of like slaps you with a fish, right, in your face, right? And that basically is the introduction to duel mode. So it's this whole thing of like you playing a duel together, right? And then it basically becomes a fighting game, right? Then it becomes this whole you versus Frosty, 3, 2, 1, fight, you know? And then, you know, it's mano a mano and you guys kill each other. And the reason why I'm saying it's a test is because we throw it out there, or we want to throw it out there to just kind of like test the balance a little bit, right? Like this is not going to be balanced at the start, right? There's going to be some stuff that is obviously better in PvP than it is in than other stuff is, but we want to just run that test so that we can tune things and just get a bunch of feedback and so on, right? And frankly, well, it's fun. Every now and then you'll just want to screw around, right? And already like, hey, let's fucking kill each other, right?
The problem is if I hit Frosty with the fish, she's probably just going to fall over from that. So it'd be just such an easy fight. I don't know if it's even worth it.
Yeah, the fish actually doesn't deal any damage, right? It's literally just a little thing, like a little funny kind of like, here's the start, right? Like there was this whole animation that somebody did with the glove, right? And we were like, you know, the Asterix thing of like slapping you with a fish in your face would actually be funnier. So we went with that.
Dude, and I have to say, like, don't stop doing things like that. Those like little attention to detail and those fun moments of like, it could just be duel 3, 2, 1 fight, but Moon Studios took the extra step where you get slapped with the fish is like a sign of disrespect, which starts the fight. Like, don't ever stop adding those types of additions to the game. Like, I feel like you see a lot of developers cut corners. That is awesome. I love that.
I completely agree. It shouldn't all be kind of like just menu driven and hard and cold, right? It should be like there should always be an element of fun in there, which, by the way, I always also appreciated with Blizzard games of the past, right? Like when you play through Warcraft 3 for the first time, right? That like the game takes itself extremely seriously, right? But then when you actually get to the end, right, that they all kind of like do a rock concert together and so on, right? There's nice little things in there where it's just levity, right? So every now and then I'm happy with this stuff, right? That, you know, hey, we don't always have to take ourselves so seriously, because Wicked in many ways already has a lot of kind of like somewhat depressing content in there, right? And there's some other kind of like really hard-hitting moments coming, right? So a little levity helps.
Yes. I see a lot of people in the chat asking questions. Just so everybody's aware, at the end of the podcast or near the end, we will be doing a live Q&A from the audience. I'll do my best to ask as many questions as possible to Thomas, and he could rapid fire some of them. So just that'll be towards the end, just so everybody's aware. Also, at the end of the podcast, we're giving away a free copy of No Rest for the Wicked. To get into that, type in ! giveaway. All right. End game. Now, whether you like it or not, Thomas, the Diablo crowd, the PoE crowd, the Last Epoch crowd, the Torchlight crowd, you are never going to break this. I blasted through the campaign. Now the game is starting. What am I supposed to do? Obviously, right now we have the Pestilence, and we could kind of juice those zones for rewards. You've got daily and weekly challenges and bounties, and then most people consider the main end game system the Crucible. Last time we talked, you said right now you could only interact with one statue of the Crucible, but there's 4 others. I've also heard rumors of something called a war table, which is maybe like a boss rush thing. I don't know if that's true, but I was hoping you could talk a little bit on the philosophy for the future of Endgame.
Yeah, so obviously, like how we used early access so far was to prove out the basics and all the foundational systems, right? And personally, like I'm not trying to be condescending, right? But I personally am feeling that we did well in terms of like breaking up the genre there a little bit, allowing things like testing out, making sure that yes, giving the player that amount of freedom can work, right? Like going through the levels like that and so on. Does the combat system work, right? All of those things were super important. The thing, and I think in that case, in that sense, in terms of like how does the combat feel, how tight does it feel to play and so on, in many ways, I think we are ahead of all of the other ARPGs already there. Simply because we went with a far more complex implementation than them, right? Like so. And again, I'm not trying to step on people's feet here, right?
Yeah.
I also worked at Blizzard, but you had a system with Diablo 1, right? Like let's do a little history lesson here, right?
Okay.
So Diablo 1 initially with David Brevik, right? When he wanted to do it was meant to be a turn-based game, right? Then Al Nadham at Blizzard basically told him many times, dude, you have to turn this into a real-time game. Real-time is the thing, right? Just try it, right? And then he tried it, and boom, he turned it into a real-time action RPG, right?
Yep.
And had that moment of like, that's fucking great, right? And to me, it was always, if we get into a genre, right, then you always kind of like have to ask yourself, well, what is the next level, right? And what I didn't want to do with Wicked was to make yet another Diablo clone, just because there's so many out there, right? There's Grim Dawn, there's Last Epoch, there's Path of Exile, there's Diablo. It's very easy to lose that battle, right? Like if we just do exactly what everybody else does, chances are we're going to lose, right? Because they have more experience in that stuff, like especially grinding gear, right? They've been doing just that for the last 15 years now,
15 years almost,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not going to set myself up for a battle that I'm going to lose, right? But I knew coming from Ori and all the stuff that we've been doing that I'm going to change the rules of the game. I'm going to change the combat. I'm going to do all of that so that we have a complete, like, so that we have a really fair fight, right? And so that we could give players something that they've never really felt before. And that was the whole plan there. And that's basically what we're trying to exploit with Wicked, right? We're really trying to, reach that kind of like next level of ARPG. Sorry, what was the original question? I kind of like drifted off there a little bit.
Let me actually tell you my fear. Fear's probably not the right word. So right now there's 5 statues of the Crucible. Yeah. My fear is that there's 5 statues and it's like, statue 1 is easy, and statue 2 is hard, and statue 3 is very hard, and it's the exact same content but different difficulty. No. I'm hoping each statue is like a different experience. That's
yes, yeah, that's exactly what we're planning. So to just elaborate on that, right? So a lot of the early access was just basically testing out that, right? Like making sure that stuff works, that we're clean on that, and now I think you can absolutely look at other games in the genre, right? Like Path of Exile 2, and objectively clarify that, systemically, they still have a deeper game than us, right? So I would say, well, the next bit of early access for us is to make sure that, okay, let's make sure that is not the case, right? That Wicked, once you play it, it's like, okay, like either you play Path of Exile, it is that play style, and gives you that amount of content and that kind of depth, right? Or you play Wicked, and it is that kind of like play style, and it has the same amount of depth, right?
Yeah.
So that's basically what we have to get to, right? That we very much match kind of like the complexity and that kind of feeling of, okay, even after I finish the campaign, now things get started, right? Like now all of the stuff opens up and so on. And yes, with the Crucible, we are doing exactly what you're saying. I already teased some of this, right? So one of the statues, the one that you see right now, is the roguelite mode, right? Yep. Where you constantly play through X amount of rooms, right? And then at the end, there's a boss. The other one that we had already planned, we even wanted to bring that out back then with the Crucible update, but we just couldn't get it done in time. But I'm working on that right now, is one that is like a horde mode. And the funny thing is, like, after that, the whole Vampire Survivors thing blew up, right? And it basically is that. It's just basically, here's a huge arena, and there's just lots and lots of enemies spawning, right? We already have the boon system. And it's just super frantic fucking fun, right? Like, where it's just like unlimited, right? And just, oh my God, all these enemies keep coming, right? Like, right now we have it set up so that there's 5 waves of enemies spawning, right? And you have to rush, you have to be really fast, right? And you can't stay too long even on the boon screen, right? Because the enemies do keep rushing in, right?
Yep.
And then after every fifth wave, there's a big fucking boss coming, right? And so, and even that doesn't stop the waves from coming, right? So that's kind of like the idea that it just keeps going and keeps going, right? But if you can't sustain, boom, you get showered with loot and stuff, right?
So it's
seriously
a completely love that idea. It's like, here's the roguelite, here's the Vampire Survivors mode, here's the tower defense, here's the...
Yes.
Like, every statue will be a completely different end game system, not just a difficulty of the existing one.
Yeah, and in many ways we can do many things that normally RPGs couldn't do, right? Like, so for example, we have all these level designers that worked with me on Ori, right? So one of the Crucible modes was also very platforming based, right? Where it's like, oh my God, there's this fucking thing chasing me, right? And I have to platform through a level really quickly and like activate this and get over there and like get away from enemies and so on, and then pull this lever to dunk these enemies into lava and so on, right? And kind of like reach the end of it, right? And it's just this constant chase where you are like kind of like Indiana Jones with the rolling boulder, right?
Yeah.
But like that times 100, right? So it's those kind of things where it's like, hey, we want to go batshit crazy with those experiences in the Crucible, where you know, like just have similar to how something like PoE 2 has different league mechanics, right? That you just have, oh, if you're currently like, if you want to play a little bit of that, you can do this. If you want to do a little bit of farming, you can do that. If you want to play that other Crucible mode, you can do that. And the important bit there is the itemization, right? So I think that's the thing where we also currently, our design isn't as clean yet because everything is kind of like mixed together, right? What was always intended is that we're switching to, well, if you like, first you need to farm a little bit of that or play a little bit of that, and then you get rewarded these resources. That unlocks that other thing, right? And these resources from over there unlocks this over here and so on, right? So that you're always kind of like encouraged to play a little bit of everything, and that the resources are specific. You have a little bit of that with the Pestilence system right now.
Yep.
Right, where you get these kind of like plagued resources, but that is going to apply to everything, right? That we're just going to be fairly specific about the target farming, right? That you need to do A to go to B, then B opens up C, C opens up D, blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So that there's always a carrot in front of your nose and just tons of different ways of playing the game that are all just hopefully super addictive to play, right?
Okay. Wow. Guys, we are 50 minutes into the podcast. For the people wondering about the future for No Rest for the Wicked, Thomas has confirmed the comfort system coming patch 1, farming, compendium, 4 new full areas, including multiple bosses for said areas, the ability to enchant tools, the ability to purchase a castle in Sacrament, PvP with duels, 4 new end game systems, no time frame on that, for each statue of the Crucible, and factions. For the wow. Okay.
Correct.
We're moving to scene 2, where we are now going to talk about what's on everybody's mind, the class system. All right. Man, there's so much coming to Wicked. I see why you're saying right now it's about a 40-hour game, and when 1.0 drops, you're going to have triple-digit hours for it. Like, wow.
That's why I said in the past, right, that we are going to work for a long time on this thing still, right? Simply because Wicked is in many ways kind of like the gift that keeps on giving as a developer, right? Because it's like, if you think of it as a platform, like, I don't, as a developer, have to go and kind of like make my own survivor style game anymore, right?
Yeah.
I will do that inside Wicked, right? I don't have to do a tower defense game. I will do that inside Wicked. I don't have to go and make a farming game. I will do that inside Wicked, right? And then ultimately we'll have this fucking crazy ultimate game, right? Where it's just, yeah, if you're interested in playing this, right? Like the survival mode, for example, that I prototyped last year was already like really fucking fun to play. And that's something that we're going to ship after 1.0, right? But that's also going to change Wicked to hopefully then compete with the survival games that are out there, right? Because with a lot of the survival games that are out there, I feel like the core pillars of those are oftentimes not that great, right? Like, I don't know, like, can you name a survival game that actually has really good combat?
No. My favorite of all of them is Death Must Die. And Death Must Die has a full ARPG like gearing system where you actually have like a helmet and body armor and weapons and affixes and itemization, but like a truly awesome vampire survivors combat system. No,
but you mean survivors game, right? I mean survival game, right? Like Rust or that kind of thing, right?
Oh.
Like the way it's gonna work is like that, right? So, and usually when you look at these games, they're just it makes sense that they don't get to polish all these core pillars, right? But we are sitting on 10 years of us having polished the crap out of this, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I think we'll be able to leapfrog ahead in many ways when we get to that stuff.
And everything I mentioned for the most part is 1.0. I would venture to guess that with, just the financial success of Wicked together, the plans for expansions and DLCs and what comes after 1.0, like that stuff's got to already be green lit, knowing, right?
Yes.
Like all that's like, there's going to be way more than just 1.0 in the future, obviously, right?
Yes. Yeah. That's the plan, right? Like we will bring 1.0 out and we'll have the entire campaign and everything, right? But I am already very much looking forward to, like, at 1.0, the idea is that the team spends time already on what will come story-wise and so on after 1.0, right? And then my, like, smaller kind of like design group and so on will kind of like expand the stuff that is there with like survival. We'll bring in the third-person camera and all of this kind of things, right? So that we can play around, have a little bit of fun. Meanwhile, the rest of the team is building all the stuff out, right? We'll also have updates to the current game. And at some point, we'll be back again with like, oh my God, now there's the huge new expansion. And now you can go to the mainland and so on, right? And, there's a whole new world to explore.
Oh, yeah. Didn't you say that potentially we'll be leaving the island like boats are in our future, right?
Right. So, yeah, I again, like, I don't want to say too much because I want to be very careful not spoiling any of the story stuff, right? Because our story folks worked extremely hard, right? So it's going to be really exciting. And then the second game is not going to just take place in Isola Sacra anymore.
Okay.
Or the expansion, basically, after the big one.
Sweet. Everybody, when it comes to this podcast, the main idea was to get an idea of the future. I have saved this as the last thing to talk about as far as big future content. This is the huge class system that is coming to No Rest for the Wicked. It's highly debated because people are like, I don't want to pick a barbarian when I make my character, and now I'm trapped in barbarian, and I can no longer, explore all these other classes. Now, Thomas and the Wicked team have already said that's not how it's going to work. There's been some images that have been shown. There's been some classes here. I know it's kind of hard to see that have been shown. Thomas, I know this is something you've been personally working on. If I start Wicked for the first time, the class system is dropped. How do I become a barbarian? What does that actually look like?
Right. So it's very simple, right? Like in many ways, think of it as almost a guideline, and you become, over time, you become the class that you choose, right? It's not the old Diablo Path of Exile thing. Path of Exile works a little bit differently, right? But in Diablo, you always had the problem of like, hey, I pick a class, I pick the Paladin, right? And now I'm kind of like confined to what the designers have laid out for me, right? I'm confined in within what are the skills that have been laid out for that class, and then also what is the play style for that, right? So, for example, I mean, they did give you a little bit of freedom there, right? Like you could come up with a subclass of the paladin, like, hey, I'll play a Hammerdin or something, right? But there's not that much depth there, right?
Yeah.
So what we want to do is, and by the way, let me explain one thing. So already on Ori and the Blind Forest back then, right? I learned my lesson in terms of skill trees. Let's get into this for a second, right? Because a lot of players always kind of like go, oh, where's my skill tree? Why can't I have a skill tree in the game, right? And I'm not a huge fan of skill trees because because of what I'll explain. So in Ori and the Blind Forest, I approached in the exact same way, right? I was a huge Diablo 2 fan and so on, and was like, oh, we need a progression system in the game. Let's do a skill tree, right? And we did a 3-pronged skill tree, right? Like here's this, like here's the agility tree, here's the strength tree, here's the whatever it was, magic tree or something, right?
Yep.
And the problem is with a traditional skill tree, and you very much see that in all of them, right? Like you usually have the problem of like, okay, because these nodes are connected, you usually have to get a bunch of shit that you don't want, right?
Yeah, to get to the one you do want.
Yeah, so even in Path of Exile 2 right now, you have that, right? Like you have that whole thing of like, oh, okay, I'm starting in this little group of nodes, right? And then I kind of like, in order, like get some resources, right? And then I have to get to this one. And then in order to get to this 5th one over there, I actually need to go over this and blah, 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 right? And I think there's an inherent problem there, right? Similar to how attribute systems have inherent limitations that kind of suck, right? I think skill trees also have inherent limitations that kind of suck because you're making the player grind stuff that he doesn't really want just to get to the thing that he really wants, right?
Yeah.
But I think what players actually would prefer is, just let me play the fucking class the way I want to play it, and let me skill it the way I want to skill it, right? And that's the thing that is really hard to pull off, but I think we'll be able to pull it off, is that allow me to mix and match, right? Like I don't want to be fucking shackled by you designer who decided a couple of things, right? I want to be able to ultimately fulfill my RPG fantasy, right? So don't shackle me, designer. If I want to play a fucking, I don't know, flamboyant assassin with some abilities from a different class with blink, right? Let me do that, right? And don't make it difficult for me to do that, right?
Yeah, so, I want a 2-handed greatsword with cloth armor, but I'm also bringing minions in. Like...
Exactly, right? Like come up with your own class, but like we are basically giving you this boundary. So let's just break it down. The way it works is that it's still a soft class system. You'll still start deprived with nothing, right? On the coast. The moment you pick up a weapon, we did this thing where it's like the weapon for now defines your class, right? So if you pick up a sword, you will level into the Squire class, right? And then you level Squire for a while. And then as you defeat enemies and so on, you gain SP, so skill points, right?
Yep.
And with these skill points, you buy traits, you buy runes and so on. So the Squire class will have a bunch of traits in there, right, that fit that class, and a bunch of class runes that fit there, right? So that you have your gap closers and whatever the hell that you want, right? And the way it's going to work is that the class runes, you will have access to 8 class runes at all times, right?
Okay.
So on your keyboard, that's easy to do. On the controllers, it's like LT, RT, right? If you hold LT, you have 4 face buttons. That's how you activate them. On RT, you hold them, and you get the other 4, right?
Yep.
Exactly. So it's like the LB, RB, right? Like with LB, you have the offhand runes, or in RB, you have your main hand runes, right? And then with the class runes, it's LT, RT, right? So it's
8 runes, and as you level, you unlock those skill points to pick the runes? Or you always have
to buy them, to purchase them, basically, right? So you have your class screen here, and then as you gain SP, right, you will just have traits there, and the traits cost something. Traits are basically your character like stats and so on, right? That is what is replacing the attribute system. So, and the reason why we feel like, hey, this is way better is because of, look at the typical traditional soul system, or the system that you have in Fallout and so on, right? You have a traditional attribute system in there, which basically is just, hey, you leveled up, and then put a point into health. And what that really does is it's giving you 5% more health, right?
Yeah.
So as a designer, you're kind of shackled within that design space of just, yeah, it's going to be 5% more health. And then on the next one, it's going to be 5% again. And then on the next one, oh, it's only going to be 4%, right? Because at some point, you
So
probably have
when
diminishing returns,
classes
right?
drop, attributes are gone. Not repurposed.
Yes.
They're out of the game.
Completely gone. Yes, completely out of the game. So, and that is replaced by traits, right? So that you can then decide, hey, I have these traits. And as your character, like right now, we have like 6 trait slots, right? And you can just slot that stuff in, right? So meaning you don't put 3 attribute points into health anymore, right? But you spent that 500 SP to buy a health trait, right? That either just gets you flat up more HP, or hey, no, fuck that. Instead, I'm going for the one that gets me lifesteal, right? Or health rally, or whatever, right? Or like one that gets you even more HP, but then drains your stamina a little bit, or that kind of thing, right? So that it's like we have a lot more design space there, right? And the other nice thing with this is that you can't like fuck up with the builds, right? Because a lot of what we saw during the breach, that actually improved a little bit now, right? But a lot of what we saw was that people played their builds in a really crappy way, right? And it always happens with attribute systems because people play a strength build, but then they just assume that, hey, if I put points into dexterity, my combat speed should be faster, right?
Yes,
but that's not really how the system works, right? So
I always pitched
so
it as
kind
the
of like,
attribute system's like an illusion of choice, because to use this weapon, I have to put these points into the attributes. So even though I have all these options, there's not actually any options. Yeah,
exactly. So that's what I mean when I say attribute systems have these inherent limitations, right? And then with all the attribute systems out there, usually there's also, well, if you want to design it that way, you also kind of like have to give the player a way to reset all of it, right? Which kind of like defeats the whole purpose. Like, hey, here we introduced these things, we gave you interesting choices, and by the way, you can fucking reset it all, right? But if you don't allow to reset it, now you're sitting on a player having put 160 hours into the game, and you're telling him, hey, just restart the entire fucking game because you put 1 point into the wrong thing, right?
Yeah.
So the way,
and by the way, I've done that,
just,
and we don't accept that. If I click one attribute point wrong, I have to reset it.
Yeah, right. So that's why we're going this way, right? Simply because it's easier to understand. It gives you a ton of replayability, simply because you will want to play all these fucking classes, right? And try them, and then purchase all the abilities and so on. And by the way, I have to give credit where credit is due, because a lot of this stuff is straight up coming from, or is inspired by, was some homage to Final Fantasy Tactics, right? Because it uses pretty much that system, and your class progression and so on comes from play, right? Meaning that if you play a Squire build, or we named it here to Guardian, right? Squire. But if you play a Guardian build, then you will get more experience as a player because you already played that build into like how to use a straight sword, right? And then also what the various class abilities are, right? And what the weapon runes are and so on, right? And you will naturally get better at that, right? And the cool thing is the mixing and matching, right? So that you can then say, oh, but I really like that gap closer ability, right? And I would still like to have that on my other build, right? And you can mix and match, right? So that
you'll have hybrid classes, basically.
Fantasy. Yes. So that's what we have to do for people, like, so that we don't just have ultimately like, here's these 26 classes that we have, right? But if you want to then come up with, but I want to play a Grim Reaper, and in my head, a Grim Reaper should play like this, right? Then it's like, yeah, cool. Now just put the runes in and put the traits in and put the enchantments in and so on. And you can most likely, because of how the math works out, right? You can most likely come up with that class that you really want to play.
And this is the class system. You've already mentioned this. It'll be tested with PTR, but it's a 1.0 system. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, okay. So the class system is the one, like I said, even like a year and a half ago, right? That we are going to replace, like the one big heart surgery thing that we're going to do for Wicked until 1.0 is replacing the attribute system with the class system. There's already a ton of work that went into this, right? And it is literally heart surgery, right? Because you're taking out basically all the stats and like you're replacing it with something else, and you're giving like you're changing it to a much deeper, much more complex system, but one that I think is also going to be tutorialized better and easier to understand.
Okay.
So
would you say that this image is
that's the whole
pretty
idea.
close to how many we're actually going to get it? I mean, these are so many classes. Like,
there is one missing here that I missed here, the marksman class for the crossbows, right? But yeah, that is what I have currently in the class manager. Not every single one of those is going to be for 1.0, right? Like, so I don't know like which ones we're going to
okay,
have to
you
drop,
said in
right?
the past Necromancer's not coming
not.
1.0. Necromancer's on here.
Yeah, exactly. Necromancer, and then yeah, there's a bunch of others, Exorcist and so on, right? That we will not have in 1.0. But you know, like obviously after 1.0, like we'll also have to make sure that, well, there's updates that we're going to release that will get people really excited and like back into the game.
Yeah. Necromancer's exciting. Damn it. Okay. I know you can't answer this question.
I hear you, right? I've even been working a little bit on the Necro still on the side, right? Simply because I love Necromancers as well. I completely get you.
I know you can't answer this question. It's probably the number one question I get while I'm playing No Rest for the Wicked. So timing on 1.0, I know you're not going to give a date. We've already asked that a bunch, but could you answer if we're going to get another major early access patch, or is the next major update 1.0?
The next major, we are already working on a patch. There's still a major patch coming. And that's going to bring in a bunch of these systems. There's a bunch of balance issues that people are complaining about, right? Like barrier and the
enhancement gems.
Damage resistance that doesn't have a cap, the enhancement gems, that kind of thing, right? So there's still going to be a patch that brings in the stuff, that brings in the dual mode, that brings in the comfort system and a bunch of other stuff, right? The beds, for example, we fucking ship together and like you can only enter a bed from one side, right? Like it's stupid stuff like that.
I did notice that when you put the bed in, you have to put it to make sure you, yeah.
Yeah, it's silly, right? Like, so there's little issues like that we absolutely gonna fix. But then we want to have Wicked in a space where it's a really fun fucking game already, right?
Yeah.
But the team has to switch over to the class system and bring in all these features. So we'll be heads down for a while. And at the same time, we are already talking to all the console platform holders, like to basically Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, and are aligning with them, right? So that, hey, on those platforms, the game will run super well, right? That kind of thing. And that we find a good marketing opportunity where we can then release 1.0 and bring it to everybody and hopefully make a huge splash out of it, right? Because I think once we have everything in and it'll be on all platforms and so on, we have a pretty good chance that it'll blow up quite a bit.
I'm going to rephrase the question. We had early access, we had The Breach, we had Wicked together, major early access, marketed releases for Wicked. So not really bug fixes or patches that introduce systems. Is the next major drop 1.0?
For the public, yes. For PTR, no. So there will be patch one that puts the game in a good state, right? But then we still want to keep testing, and we will have, here's a group of people that already get to play a bunch of this other stuff, that get to try the class system, that get to try a bunch of the stuff that we have planned for 1.0. None of you, by the way, will get to play the story content, right? Simply because I'm not going to have anybody spoil the story.
That's smart. Yeah, smart.
Yeah. But generally, in terms of systems and so on, right? Like, yes, there will be a PTR and like people will be able to play test that. We'll, like make sure that we get a ton of feedback and that we just get to polish the crap out of it and like fix all the bugs and everything, right? But we will have to be heads down for a while to just basically finish it. We'll have to crunch a little bit, right? And then ship it and, like really kind of like do the whole 1.0 thing. Because it's also, we'll have to promote, we'll have to make a whole bunch of videos, featurettes.
People are asking like crazy, is PTR going to be open? So can you like apply to get in, or is it Like how would somebody that wants to help test and make it awesome?
If you want to help and test, right, then just play the game a bunch. Because we are looking very much at who is playing, who is giving a lot of feedback, right? And if you fall into that group of like, hey, you're playing Wicked a ton and you're giving valuable feedback, that's where we basically pull you in, right? So if you're on our Discord and if you're chatting a lot, right, and if you're basically saying smart things, then the chances are much higher that we go and knock on your door and say, hey, you want to test this?
Okay. That is awesome. This question I'm really swinging for the fences for, okay? Is 1.0 scheduled for this calendar year?
We'll have to see.
Is it possible?
Everything is possible. So-
I'll take it. I'll take that. All right, perfect. No, that wasn't a no. I'll take that. I will take that. On the screen right now, an image that was put out by Moon Studios shows the Oracle class at level 50, and it says mastered. Is that basically the 1.0 level cap is moving from level 30 to level 50? Was that a little Easter egg that was added into the image?
The level cap that we actually have right now in the game, that is not a final kind of like thing, right? But it's actually going to be 60.
Okay. All right. Oh, level cap moving to 60. All right.
From 30 to 60.
So it'll be doubling.
Yeah.
All right. One of the concerns that people have brought up about the class system is the idea that I pick a source, which is the image on screen right now, and I'm leveling the source, and it's like, oh, I no longer want to play source. I want to play two-handed greatsword. So, but I can't actually do that because I've leveled up source. So even though I'm not locked to playing source, I can't switch because everything else is under-leveled.
No, that's we already solved that problem, right? That's not how the system works. So as like basically think about it like this, right? Let's say you already played a sorcerer, you leveled up to like level 20 or something. Right now you really want to get into greatsword builds, right? You will still be able to use that greatsword, right? And the only thing that you don't have is all your sorcerer runes and so on, right? So you will have to, like, in terms of gameplay, you're starting as a scrub within that class again, but from a power level, it'll be fairly similar because you'll already probably have picked up a greatsword at like level whatever, 10, 11, whatever, right? And that already does a certain amount of damage. So in many ways, the classes is not constant, like just power creep, power progression, right? It's also scaling sideways, right? And I think one of the reasons why that works in Wicked, and I've been fairly critical of that, right? In point and click kind of like classic ARPGs, right? Like the problem that everybody's facing, right? And that nobody has properly conquered yet, right? Is that once you get to end game, it always devolves into power creep.
Yeah.
Because there's no more design space left, right? Like every single class, it doesn't matter which class you pick, right? It always becomes, how do I wipe the screen the fastest, right? Because all you can do is really, increase power, right? Because there is no, timing, positioning, that kind of thing, right? And so with Wicked, it's a little bit different, right? Like the play style changes completely and all of that stuff, right? So in many ways, it's kind of like not scaling completely horizontally, right? But much more horizontally than vertically.
Yeah, so for the example, it would be you switch from a source to a two-handed greatsword. It's not that you're going to be weaker. You're just not going to have as many options because you haven't unlocked those options by playing the sword.
It's similar to in real life, right? If you're a martial artist, like if you're a swordsman, right? And now you become someone who wants to do his martial arts with daggers or something, right? You're not really starting from zero, right? Like you still understand the moves and so on, right? It's a similar thing here, right? Like you will still be able to pick up that weapon, you will be able to wield it. And the really nice side effect with all of this is also every item that you pick up actually becomes viable now, right? Because what we have right now is, hey, you fight this boss and it drops a really great bow, but You know, like you don't have dex requirement, right? And now you have to respec, right? With this, it's like, no, you can equip it. You just are a scrub as an archer, you know,
Yeah.
and you will, if you really want to use that, cool, level into it, play it more. And over time, you will unlock all the traits, you will unlock all the things, right? So basically, it's just this whole thing of like, we won't force you to kind of like completely play a new class or a new realm, right? You will be able to just play that, but the power thing, people I don't think have to be worried about.
Okay. I know you said you've been listening to the community from Wicked Together, people talking about balance and enhancement gems and barrier and certain runes that are stronger. People talk about using bows and you don't have to worry about enemies because you have range classes like wands. I was curious if you could just kind of talk to the community right now and just kind of your philosophy around balancing. For me, I'm a big proponent of, you know, if you don't have balance, you don't have difficulty, right? So there's no challenge. Like, right. I mean, if you literally got rid of enhancement gems, I would understand. I was just curious, kind of, you're just your overall thoughts on ensuring two-handed greatswords are as good as a bow or a wand, basically.
So, for example, with the two-handed greatswords, one of the things that we obviously still have to do is that you have to have more access to playstyle, right? Because the one-handed stuff has, oh, I have shields, I will have pipes, I will have orbs, I will have tomes in offhand, right? And so that gives you more variety, right? But with the two-handers, what we have to do is that you also have 8 runes available, right? And that these runes will kind of like make up for that, right?
Yeah.
Meaning that it's a different place if you play two-hand versus one-hand, but we can't fall into this Diablo 2 thing, right? Where it's just, well, two hands are basically shit, right? Like if you play a paladin in Diablo 2, don't use a two-hander because it's like the stats will never make up. The stats that you lose from shield plus main hand, right, will never make up for what you gain from the two-hander. So that's the stuff that we need to look into. And then I don't want to overly just nerf everything, right? But there are going to be things in there like Archer, for example. It doesn't make sense that as you shoot the arrow, right? Right now there is no damage mitigation basically as the arrow flies longer, right? So that's stupid. Like that's something that we're gonna fix, right? So that you can't just stand back in the crucible and like fire things at enemies and like, you know, and that's it, right? Like there will be, if you fire from really far away at some point, that arrow doesn't have that energy anymore. And
it doesn't have the velocity. That's interesting.
Exactly. So it's those kind of things. And then just on the enchantments, we are just looking at, you know, the tuning of those and like, you know, okay, some of these synergies are a little bit crazy and so on, right? But it's all just kind of like finely balanced. But the bigger problem to me that we are seeing, and we're seeing that because right now you just have tiers 1 to 3, but some people already have really nicely tuned builds. And the problem is just a content problem, right? Like with these nicely tuned builds, you just don't have the tier 4 and tier 5 and tier 6 content yet that really fucks you hard, right? Like, so a lot of the builds that you guys are playing are great, but right now you're lacking that challenge. You're just missing those bosses and all that crazy shit that is still coming.
What about gap closing? Like enemies closing the gap on a bow user, or because enemies will always, I've kind of noticed enemies will jump back far to like miss an attack, but they don't really jump forward.
Yeah. So they need more kind of like range answers, right? Like answers to kind of like range issues and so on. So obviously we'll work on that, right? Like right now they have like simple things like, hey, they'll throw a rock or something, right? But they need like we'll need to come up with more stuff. And the more complex enemies already, like they will be able to do things like blink and that kind of thing.
Awesome. Scene 3. All right, everybody. Thomas is officially between 2 portals. Now, if you guys didn't hear me earlier, we are getting more towards the end of the podcast. Thomas will do a live Q&A with the audience. I will do my best to answer or ask as many questions as humanly possible. I doubt we will get through all of them. So if you have any questions, we will get to that portion in a little bit. Also, we're drawing a key for a free copy of No Rest for the Wicked. So to get into that for the end of the podcast, type in !giveaway. All right, Thomas, These are a little more rapid fire. Okay.
Let's do it.
Transmogs. Right now, it is very, very hard to just visually match sets. Also, any plans for same set bonuses?
Transmogs right now is still on wish lists, and if we do it, we only do it for archetype, meaning you can change this cloth piece to that other cloth piece and this plate to that plate, but we're not going to allow you to do plate to cloth and things like that.
Okay. Any thoughts on
PvP.
if you had the same sets, you'd get a bonus? So, for example, I took the time, I got the 4 seer items, anything like that.
Yes, Timothy has already been working on that. That's a system that's still in the box. I'll let him explain it, but there's stuff like that where it's like, if you have 2 of a set, you get this. If you have 4 of a set, you get this. If you have 3, blah, blah.
Awesome.
Etc.
Any thought on, instead of just selling items you don't want, salvaging them for materials? So I have a bow, I don't want it, I sell it for silver. Now I could break it down for wood.
That's a Kevin Jordan thing, right? Like, Kevin is always the economy guy at Moon. He initially didn't want us to do that, right? I'm kind of like in his neck a little bit with like, oh, but that would be such a great Danos upgrade, right? That you could upgrade Fillmore even more and then salvage your stuff and so on. We'll have to see. A lot of that is dependent on the itemization and where we end up with 1.0 and like how long it takes to gain certain resources and so on, right? And we always err on the side of keeping the players a little bit poor and it taking longer to get items. Because then we can bring in these satisfying things of like, oh my God, now I got a faster way to get these items.
Got it. Okay. Right now we have dual daggers. Any thoughts on like dual swords, dual axes, the ability to dual wield?
That comes up all the time, right? We have things planned still regarding weapons and archetypes, right? But some of that stuff will only come after 1.0.
Okay. This question is from me. The ability to fast travel directly from the map or the whispers being labeled on the map so you know the name of the location.
That's a really interesting one. So name of the location on the map we will absolutely do, but that has come up even when we first brought in the fast travel. One of our coders basically brought this up. And yes, I do think it's interesting that you at least like on the fast travel see the map thing there.
Okay. This is asked all the time. I feel like I already know what you're going to say. Mini map. So having a mini map in the corner
is not planned simply because we have a very it's not. The reason why it works and is really good in like a Diablo is because literally every level that you play through is a flat plane, right? So it works. But if you try to play the minimap, we had this, by the way. If you try to play the minimap the way you do it in Diablo, you will constantly fall off a fucking cliff and so on, right? And I already get enough shit from people falling off cliffs.
That question's coming. Yeah.
It's not right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's actually interesting. A lot of people, I get what you mean. You actually play the map, you're not playing the game. So yeah, you'd fall and die all the time. That's interesting. Okay. Gathering. So right now, if we use an example for a tree, I swing, I hit perfect. I swing, I hit perfect. It drops 2 logs. Then I have to click to pick up, click to pick up. That's if it doesn't fall in a river or off a cliff. Any thoughts on the materials going immediately into your storage, just like you were gathering flowers or something like that?
We'll do a lot of stuff there. That's the reason why we have enchanted tools and so on, right? Like we'll see. We'll definitely expand on things with like gathering and so on now that we have enchantments and tools.
Okay. Any plans for an actual, these are all, guys, I'm asking community questions from yesterday. Any plans for an actual affix or enhancement for less fall damage?
No.
Okay.
Simply because of exploits.
People skipping.
We don't want you to get to, people skipping in a way where it doesn't require skill. It's just available to everybody. Like, no, it's not planned.
Okay. With the new class system, is there any changes to the way weight load is changing in the future?
Yeah, there's no load. It's going to be a trait, right? So you will have to sacrifice one of your slots. for that.
So weight and attributes gone with the class system. Interesting. Awesome.
Everything that is in attributes right now is going to be gone. It's going to be replaced by traits. So people have to make interesting choices. What are you putting? Like your class is very much going to be defined by what are you putting into the 6 slots for your character.
Okay. This is something that I ran into multiple times. Like I want to play a fire infusion. I want to play a fake plague infusion. I found 100 gems, but I haven't found that one gem I want. Any thoughts on like a conversion? So for example, I have 10 chipped skulls and I could trade those in for a bigger one. Or even if the conversion was brutal, like I've got 20 of these embers and I could trade it for the ember I need.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why we're expanding Sacrament. I'll leave it at that.
That's a yes. Thank you. I've had multiple people join the stream and they are devastated to the point of tears because they cannot, or they sold, or they broke down, or they destroyed their item locking, inventory locking, realm recovery.
Yes, I hear it. Yes. Yeah, we'll fix that.
Okay. Awesome. Item locking coming. Is Moon Studios happy with the state of dots? It seems like most of the time people are playing crit builds. So for example, like Bleed Infusion, Plague Infusion, any updates for dots coming?
All of that will be heavily affected by the class system and we'll make our final decisions on that. So I can't say anything right now. We're literally in the midst of it right now, right?
Okay.
So I just yesterday had these calls where we went over that. So we'll have to see.
Awesome. Changes to quivers. I know quivers were kind of a last minute thing that almost, I think you put in personally. I get asked all the time, are we going to be able to put affixes on quivers?
Yes. So all of that, right? And like right now we just have 4 quivers. So obviously, there's more stuff coming.
Awesome. This question, I'm sure is a no-brainer. More building projects coming to Sacrament in the future?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Smarter cliffside mechanics. So for the example, you're sprinting and you hit a ladder or you hit vines. Instead of climbing down the ladder or climbing down the vines, you jump off the cliff. This happens all the time.
Yeah, there's a difference between little bugs and quality of life things, right?
Yeah.
Where, like you don't fall, like players shouldn't fall because of little hiccups, right? But they should fall if they roll off a cliff, right? Like it's a skill issue. Like if it's a skill issue, you die. There's no, like, I'm sorry, but if you roll off a cliff, you die, right? But if it's literally like, oh, you got stuck somewhere, or oh, these vines didn't properly trigger or something, that's obviously we're fixing that.
Okay. I know you get asked this question a lot. Server options. The ability to turn off friendly fire, basically, but I mean, just more in general, having options over the server you're playing with your friends.
So that's where the realm modifiers come in, right? So there's definitely still a huge thing that we want to do there, simply because, especially with co-op, right? Like you want to have that thing where you can set up, and there's a lot of replayability you can get out of that. I gave that example before. Like when I was younger, I always played games like GoldenEye and Halo together with my buddies, right? And they always had modifiers, right? Like you could play Slayer or something, right? And it really massively increased the replayability, right?
Yeah.
I'd want similar things as well in Wicked, right? Where even for setting up the game in a way that would particularly suit your group, right? Like if you're a huge fan of corpse runs, right? And giving you that extra when you died, right? Like there should be something there, right? Like we even have that mechanic already integrated, right? So I really would want to see more of that stuff, so people can really challenge themselves and even share particular realm modifiers, right? So you can be proud and say, oh my God, I finished Wicked kind of like with these realm modifiers active, right? That's
like a challenge run.
Yeah.
Any potential plans for a throwing system? For example, like you're skilled enough, you actually pick up a monster and throw it off a cliff, or anything throwing related.
Funny that you mentioned that, and I don't know if I should say that, but
your smile saying yes.
Yeah, so there's gonna be some cool stuff coming in 1.0. Let's stick with that.
Throwing coming. People. This next question is around randomization. So Thomas ever consider like a Jack in the Box mechanic? You know, you kill a random squirrel or bunny or deer, and that squirrel turns into like a were squirrel, and you got to fight it, or like randomization in those types of regards.
Yeah, and mimics and so on, right? Yeah, we want to bring that in.
Okay. I don't even want to read this one. Loot goblins.
We have some really cool fucking mimic concepts, by the way.
Mimics?
Yeah, like some of the most disgusting, crazy loot concepts that mimic concepts that I think people will enjoy a lot.
Community member wants to know if the idea of like loot goblins, not like obviously copying Diablo, but you're running through the forest and there's something random you normally don't see that you got to go hunt down and chase.
I love the whole thing of loot goblins. We even have it integrated already, right? We just never really finished it, right? But I like the whole mechanic of there's something there. I really want to get it, but oh my God, it's running past all the enemies and now it's mayhem, right? And like I have to get it, but there's a timer and everybody's chasing me now and all of that.
Okay. That is awesome. People love random encounters, like whether they want to admit it or not, the butcher mechanic, loot goblins, like just anything that's different than normal.
As well, and so on. Yes.
Yeah. Crossplay. So when 1.0 launches and you have PC and PS5 or any console, would I literally be able to access my PC characters?
All of that. Yes.
On PS5. Yeah. Yep. Awesome.
Yes. Everybody can play together. And if you go from PC to PS5 and use your account, then you will still be able to play your save and so on.
Okay. I literally can't believe it. We made it through all the questions. Final question for the comfort system. Will you be able to decorate your walls, wallpapers, portraits, pictures, like basically tons of more decorations for your house?
Not in the initial one. In patch 1, we don't allow that yet, but that is definitely something that I would love to see happen.
Okay. Awesome. Holy smokes. Everybody that was here for pre-show, we have asked every single question on the list, switching back to scene 1. Very, very nice. I can't believe we got through everything. All right, everyone. Thomas, thank you so much for coming on. We are now in the final portion of our podcast today. This is the Q&A. Don't get mad at me. Don't get mad at us. I'm going to do my absolute best to ask as many questions as possible. Thomas, I recommend to answer the questions as fast as possible. So, all right. If you have a question for Thomas, go ahead and ping me, like at Aaron Action RPG in the chat, and I will do my best. Okay. Ask about Plague Ichor. What can you obtain from it? Very limited. Can you get everything quickly? How's the system? Will it progress in the future? Future for the Plague Ichor system.
But just wait for our endgame systems, you will see.
Okay. Will there be any secret classes like in Final Fantasy Tactics? Ones that aren't like announced, but you might find?
Well, they wouldn't be secret if I would just say that.
Great answer. Somebody said any fixes for like the dupe mechanic. I don't know what that is, but duping, cheating, hacking the game, anything like that.
I would be very careful with some of that stuff that people are doing right now. Yes, I saw what people are doing with modifying these files and so on. I would advise against it.
Okay, don't get a permanent ban.
Don't get mad at us. Don't get mad at us if at some point you corrupt your stuff, right, with that.
Okay. Any chance this is coming to Mac OS?
We have the editor already running on macOS, so it's more of a question of when, not if. We have to do consoles first, though.
Okay. People want to know if there's a wipe at 1.0. I think you've already said there will be, right? Like a fresh start?
Yes, there will be.
Okay. Any chance
for
a
fresh start? And the game is changing a lot, right? We want you to experience all the new side quests and everything that is in there, right? The game will be quite different, quite a lot more depth and so on, right? We want everybody to experience Wicked in the best possible way.
Any chance for a Bard class in the future, like a true support class?
I mean, there's going to be many classes that we are looking at right now for 1.0. Bard is not on that list.
Okay. Will classes have specific armor types, or is it really just the weapon?
That's an interesting one. So I have to stick with we'll have to see, right? Internally, I already assigned all the armors to the various classes, but we'll have to see, because we have to be very, like, we don't want to limit players, but I think encouraging them to match X with Y is a good idea.
Okay. Any plans for music buffs? So you could play like in your house, you go to bed, you get a buff, you pet the dog, you get a buff. What about music buffs?
I'm not sure I understand what a music buff is.
I don't know. Like you have the little music player, maybe. All right, moving on. There's like 1,000 questions. There's like so
there
many.
Will be more things like that, right? Like we have the Songkeeper in the game. Like obviously we'll do more of that in the future.
A question around like a bodybuilding, like roid mage class that uses fists, like a kind of like a Hulk class, like a no weapons class. Is that all right?
We'll see.
Nodding his head. Stash tabs or support class. Wait. Ask about stash tabs or a support class, please. Stash tabs. So like basically being able to...
There's going to be more housing items and so on, right? So yeah, there's a lot more coming. Like basically even with the housing items that we have right now, it doubled the amount. There's even going to be tableware and all kinds of crazy shit that you will have in your house that you'll have access to.
Okay, someone asked how many zones are planned. 4 more for 1.0. Will you be able to buy houses in other areas? Martin Village, for example.
Not for 1.0, but after that, yes.
Okay.
You will be able to buy houses in Havenport and in Tier once we get to those zones.
Awesome. Any chance for a gunner class? Guns. Like no. Flintlock? No?
No. Nope.
Leaderboards for PvP or PvE?
We'll have to see.
Okay. In May of 2025, you guys hinted that nunchucks are coming to the game. Is that still planned?
Yes. We even have a bunch of the models already. We have a bunch of the animations and so on, right? But I have to finish 1.0. I don't know if I can get that in still. Nunchucks
confirmed. Thoughts on no loading screens when entering a small area?
Yes. Right now we have this whole rule that like we just show the loading screen all the time, right? When we actually, it's interesting, when we originally launched, we didn't have the loading zones in there, right? The loading screens. We added that after, but a lot of people kind of like have pretty fucking fast machines, right? And then you get these loading zones that are like 1 or 2 seconds or so, right? So yeah, I think we can be a little bit smarter there.
Okay. So when you're you have a bunch of enchantments that you've ripped off of items. People are asking about being able to search your stash instead of just like mouse over each one.
A lot of that stuff is usually coming towards the end, right? This is quality of life, kind of like polished stuff and so on. So we'll have to see. Yeah.
Okay.
There will be cool house items though, right? Like in many ways, I don't want people to just trash all their stuff into one chest and then call it a day, right? Like there will be an ember reliquary, right? That you can place in your house and then have your embers there and so on, right? And ways for people to sort things themselves, right? So I always kind of like first want to go that route before we do like my whole thing with like, if your game requires loot filters, you probably already have a different problem, right? And so I want to take the natural, go to the natural solution first.
Okay. Any plans for a non-melee two-hander? So like a staff, but, you know, not a staff that hits, like an actual ranged attack caster.
Yes, but I have to see if I can get it into 1.0. We'll see.
Okay. Any plans to add dragons to the game? These are just questions straight. No. Okay, no dragons.
No, Wicked is very much supposed to be low fantasy. It's not high fantasy, right? We'll never do things where if a character dies, we bring them back through some magical thing and so on. That's not what we're doing.
Happy with the current difficulty settings?
Not really. So we already know that a lot of like we could do more interesting things with hard mode. People are already asking for even harder stuff, right? Even though, well, some of that stuff is not that is just from, okay, you actually want more content and more difficult content that is coming anyway, right? But there's definitely still stuff that we're going to tweak on difficulties.
Is there any secret in the game that you think nobody has found? Something out there still not discovered?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Oh boy. Do we have any idea when patch 1 will drop? I believe you posted today that it'll be soon. Is
Yes, but we first want to make sure that all of this stuff is fixed, right? So that we leave Wicked in a really good spot for all the people in the public, right? That it's fine. And so that we're in a fine spot with people kind of like waiting for things to drop.
Okay. I'm sorry. Chat is exploding. When you said there's a secret still in the game that nobody has found, could you even point or give any clue that people could start hunting for it? Like anything? Like north, south, nothing? No.
I mean, you'll see once 1.0 is out. It will be like, people will have a couple of like, oh my God moments. Yeah, so we'll see.
All right, we got to figure this out. There's so much stuff in here. Thoughts on not like companions, but like helpers. So you go to bed, but you send out the people to go get, farm trees. Basically kind of like minions in your...
That is not planned right now. Yeah, that is not planned right now. I know what people are asking for, why they're asking for it, but it's, if we would consider that then after 1.0, it's not on our list right now.
Okay. I know you've said this in the past, but just publicly, any plans for purchase MTX armor, weapons, anything as far as purchasable cosmetics?
Absolutely, 100% no.
Okay. You guys, I'm
happy to elaborate on why, right? Because
Go ahead.
I'm going to have some very interesting discussions at GDC about this. But I completely get why we ended up in that spot as an industry we're in right now, right? But if you really think about it, especially with ARPGs, I think if you put microtransactions in the game, right? We're getting a lot of outreach from people that just want to support Moon, right? And like would be totally happy with cosmetics and so on, right? But it's always this downward spiral. If you do it as a developer, at some point it will become part of your revenues, right? Like of your revenue model. And then you will be required to do that constantly, right? And what usually happens is that at some point, if you are dependent on that, you will make sure that, well, the stuff that is in the game can't be as good as the stuff that you buy with your credit card, right? And I don't want to open up that can of worms. I have too much humility. Like none of us is smart enough to kind of like understand exactly, how this could evolve, right? So I don't even want to up this Pandora's box.
Okay. Do you feel like parry system is in a good place, or does it still need some tweaking?
Just changes coming to parry.
Okay.
Still, yeah.
Awesome.
Even just making it more satisfying, right? I think that effect and like that thing when you actually land the parry, there's going to be stuff coming. There's also the call-out system coming that is going to make that juicier. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Any plans to make co-op more than 4 people?
Not right now. There is stuff that people are asking for, right? Where it's like allow a queue and that kind of thing. That's something we could think about. But for at least 1.0, no, it's going to be 4 people for now.
Okay. People are saying, don't spoil what it is, the secrets. I always want to know. Will there ever be more diverse equipment, such as belts or just other equipment slots?
Again, there's going to be more items in general, right?
Yeah.
Like you will have pipes, orbs, tomes, and so on, that kind of thing. But before we go and add more stuff, I really want to fully exploit the design space of the stuff that we already have, right? I don't think we're quite there yet. So there's still a lot more that we can do. So we'll do that first. Once we actually hit a wall, that's when you think about adding more things.
Okay. Last podcast, you talked about saving your goat blood when we were talking about the secret cow level. Is there plans for something to discover for 1.0?
Why are you asking me about secret stuff? Yeah, like it's not going to be secret if I'm going to already spill it, right? So
you already
I'm not
spilled
answer
it.
any of this.
All right, you're right. Stupid question. How do you feel about the current state of uniques? Some people say there's only 1 or 2 uniques that are actually solid after you beat the campaign. Is there going to be changes to itemization?
Yes, like, yeah, for sure, right? Like, I left a lot of the stuff for the class system because it didn't make sense anymore that that we would go and fix these now, right? Simply because there's this whole rework that is that we knew would be coming right after the Together update. But yes, for sure, right? Like, we hear you, we agree with a bunch of these complaints. Yes.
Okay. Will the biomes ever have a weather system? Raining, snow, ash, where obviously the zones are handcrafted, but maybe there can be some different effects when you're in it instead of just like time of day.
Well, we already have weather, right? Like, it can already rain, and it can be, like stormy and that kind of thing. So, yeah, will we have more of that in the future? I don't know, right? But right now, the bigger thing to figure out, and that I'd still like to look into, is giving that more gameplay purpose, right?
Okay.
So right now it's a nice visual thing, but I think it would be nice if it would have an actual gameplay purpose.
I've seen this question. Mounts. Does Wicked have any plans for mounts in the future?
No. Like, look at the way we design our levels, right? Like, there's no, like, how the fuck does your horse climb a ladder, right? Like, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, right. And you don't sell cosmetics, so why would you have mounts? I mean, it doesn't.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm going to read 5 more questions. I'm scrolling all the way to the bottom. I love that answer. All the way to the bottom. Any plans for a market of any kind?
Not right now. Like, we're still kind of like looking at how people trade and kind of like use the multiplayer features and so on, right? Maybe in the future we'll expand things more, but not right now.
Any plans for like a fatality or finisher type system? That would be really cool.
Yep.
Yes?
Yep.
Will the future expansions after 1.0 be paid?
Yes. So we are not going the traditional microtransactions route, right? Like, we're not gonna nickel and dime people on, hey, you only get to really look cool if you pay us, $20 for this skin or some shit like that. But what we do and where we want to go is just literally doing what has been done in the past, what From Software still does, right? Where it's like, we will, after 1.0 drops, it will be hopefully masterpiece level, right? And like, people are going to be really happy with what we're shipping. After that, we're going to go away for a while, right? Like, and a lot of our people are going to work on the huge new expansion. Meanwhile, we're going to keep updating the game, right? Add more systems, add more modes, add more stuff, like really give people even more value, right? But then at some point, the huge new update will drop, and that will be, a bigger expansion, basically. So it's an expansion model. It's not the traditional microtransaction thing.
People in chat are spamming that they want to buy it right now. So you guys are looking pretty good for the question. Final question. Is there any plans, maybe with the comfort system, to make it easier to place items in the house? Like the actual way of decorating.
Yeah. I mean, especially also keyboard and mouse, right? Like that's something that we have to look into. And then I already put snapping in. I don't know how many people are actually using that, right? But yeah, we have to do some quality of life there to make it snap towards walls and that kind of thing, right?
Guys, there's lots of questions popping up around PvP. Earlier in the podcast, Thomas already talked about PvP and how it's going to work and the test for it. And by the way, there is a way, to place the items a lot easier in the house with the controller. It's like a little trick. All right, Thomas.
By the way, I mean, the dual mode is not the full PvP that we had planned, right? The dual mode is the first test, and like for people to fuck around, right? There is gonna be a fuller PvP in Wicked at some point. We already, like, I already said that, right? Like, we already internally for years had run tournaments in at the studio, which has always been really fun. So there's gonna be a full-blown arena, and I do think we have a chance of really changing the way fighting games are being perceived a little bit, simply because of how deep our combat system is and that it's a full 3D space, right? So, because I'm really passionate about this stuff, because when we moved from 2D fighting games to 3D fighting games, it's really just, yeah, you have polygons, right? But the actual 3D fight, like, there were some things that Capcom did with Power Stone, right? Where it was actual 3D, and that was quite fun, but I think we can do even better than that. And I think that'll be really fun. The PvE, in many ways, because of how the arena work, the various arenas work and so on, it's going to be a bit of a mix of Nidhogg, like your typical fighting game, Nidhogg and Bomberman and that kind of stuff, right? But there's going to be, like, we're going to look quite a bit at PvP. At the same time, let me already say also that it's not going to be esports level stuff, right? It's going to be similar to Dark Souls, where it's a fun mechanic. We want people to have tons and tons of fun, but we're not going to go to, oh, now it's competitive esports and, like, you know, like that kind of, like, that's just not what we're doing.
Yeah, somebody put castle versus castle would be a lot of fun, something like that. We're already talking about on my channel, Friday Night Fights. So if PvP is introduced in a way that, you know, you could create a bracket, and like you said, it's, you know, it's for fun. It's not like super competitive, but maybe like we could do like every other Friday, a Friday Night Fights, and you could sign up on Discord, and I don't know, just some fun, different things that you could do.
And doing things like betting items against one another, right? Like, hey, what are you betting, right? And if you lose that item and so on. A lot of that stuff could be really fun.
Somebody said, please, for the love of God, keep that spirit. Moon Studios for the win. All right, Thomas, there is probably 100 questions I did not get to. For anybody that didn't get their question answered, Thomas, where's the best place that they could bring their question?
Just hop onto our Discord, right? We are there a lot of, like, all of our developers jump in there all the time, right? Read it, and you know, like, we're just there, right? So if you have questions and so on, we're there. Just ask. Good chance that I will jump in and, like, answer it myself.
Okay, awesome. Man, the pre-show, we went over all the questions we wanted to ask. We wanted to talk about the future of Wicked. And Thomas, I just appreciate you and Moon Studios so much. It is a breath of fresh air being able to talk to not only somebody that is the top level of the studio, but someone that is in the weeds designing the game and playing the game. If people don't know, Thomas isn't just
he actually knows what the fuck he's talking about.
Correct. He's not somebody at the top level just barking orders and pointing. He's in the studios during the holidays alone, actually creating Wicked. So to just hear your answers for the future and what you are trying to make, man, it is just, man, you could see why the success is coming.
I do want to keep that humility of just, like, we're making a game for the people out there, right? Like, in many ways, we're making Wicked as, like, that ARPG that we always dreamed of making, right? But ultimately, I think as a developer, you have to keep that humility of understanding you're making this game for the people out there, right? Which is why it's so important to kind of, like, have this community and for people to tell us, like, give us your feedback, right? Because ultimately, we are all sitting in one boat, right? Like, we all want the same thing, which is this should become the most fun ever, right?
Yep.
And so, yeah, that's what we're, like, we are making that game for you folks, right? So if you send us your feedback, we very much listen to what you have to say.
Yeah, I mean, you really blew me away today with not only what's planned for 1.0, you guys are already thinking about the future, and it's not like we're adding farming, so now you don't have to go out and explore. It's like, it's a full-blown system. You're not just going to have a house where you could fast travel. It's a full-blown system, you know. End game, we're making, it's just, it's, I really like where you guys are taking it, and that is, it's a pleasure talking to you, and I appreciate you coming here and interacting with me in the community for 2 hours. And a lot of times developers and studios won't answer questions the way that you answer questions. So I think what the community is really saying is like, just please don't ever change. Keep the spirit and just keep the drive going. It's just
we also we have that advantage that we're not some corporation, right? We're not publicly traded or that kind of thing, right? We're making, like, Wicked is a game from gamers for gamers, right? And we just basically want to do right by players, right? So if people out there like and enjoy Wicked, right, like hopefully that goes on for a long time, right? That we have this fair relationship of like, we make awesome stuff, you guys buy it and support us, and we'll keep making more awesome stuff because of that.
Yeah, somebody said don't do Ashes of Creation on us, please. I think you're
that's not gonna happen.
That's not gonna happen. Okay, awesome, everybody. That is gonna do it for Town Portal Podcast episode 14. Sad that Frosty LaRue cannot be here, but he's going to do a full recap video as well. I see tons of questions as well in the chat that Thomas already answered earlier around dual wielding and some things for the future, so you could listen to the podcast later on. For the post show, we're going to draw a free copy of No Rest for the Wicked, so hang out for a little bit. You can get a chance to win. And if you have any questions for Thomas or the team, you could head over to their Discord and ask away. Actually, Thomas, final thing. You said patch 1 is soon. Is that like a week? Mm-hmm. You don't got to give a date, but like expect it soon?
Bit more than that, but
couple of weeks.
Soonish.
Yeah,
all right. Couple weeks.
Awesome.
Yeah, soonish.
Thomas, thanks so much for hanging out, and you're welcome anytime.
Absolutely. I always enjoy talking to you, Aaron, right? Like, now that you're actually a Wicked crazy person who put 300 hours in.
What?
We
Me?
can really talk. Yeah.
I know. I was so excited
for this podcast. We can really talk
podcast.
kind of like internal baseball, right? So it's fun.
Yeah, now that I get it, the podcast definitely hit different. Okay,
I'll definitely invite you to the PTR, right? So that you can also try the class system and so on. You will have to kind of like keep quiet for a while on that, right? But we'll definitely set something up so that you can also give us feedback on that and so on.
Yeah, of course. I'm not going to leak anything, so I think I really won't leak anything, I promise. All right, guys, I got to let Thomas go. Post show starting now.